All right, ready for another deep dive?
Always.
Awesome. So today we're taking a look at Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now. This book, it started really small in Vancouver, selling just 3,000 copies its first year.
Wow, it's done a lot.
Yeah. But get this, it was all word of mouth. Then, boom, it just blew up.
Became a global thing, huh?
Total phenomenon, yeah.
Yeah.
Even made it onto the New York Times bestseller list.
There's definitely something about it that resonates with people.
Totally. And the journey the book took to success, it kind of mirrors what the book's all about.
Oh, yeah? How so?
Well, it started small, right? Authentic, spread through personal connections.
Kind of like Tolle himself, actually.
Right. He started out just answering people's questions. Spontaneously. That's how he became a spiritual teacher.
And then those questions kind of led to the power of now.
Exactly. Speaking of seeking answers, Tolle has this interesting advice for readers.
What's that?
He says, don't just use your brain. Don't just analyze it. Yeah, he wants you to have a feeling response, engage with it.
So it's more than just reading words on a page.
Totally. It's like something inside you is waking up as you read.
I like that. Like it's an experience, not just an intellectual exercise.
Exactly. And a big part of that experience is this idea you are not your mind.
Right. One of the central concepts of the book.
So remind me, how does he illustrate that?
He uses this really striking parable about a beggar.
A beggar.
Yeah. And he's been sitting on this box of gold for 30 years.
Yeah.
But he thinks he's still poor. Why?
Why?
Because he never looked inside the box.
Oh, wow. I see where you're going with this.
It's a perfect metaphor. We get so caught up in our thoughts,
Yeah, for sure.
We totally miss the treasures inside ourselves.
It's so true. Okay, but how do we actually break free from that? It feels like our minds are constantly going.
Right. And we think that's normal.
Mm-hmm.
But Tolle says a lot of our suffering comes from identifying with our thoughts. We get so lost in them.
Like replaying the past, worrying about the future.
Exactly. And we miss out on experiencing the now.
That's a good point. Okay, recognizing that mental pattern is one thing, but how do we shift it?
Well, that's where the pain body comes in. It's like this negative energy field inside of you.
Whoa, okay, a negative energy field.
Yeah, think of it as all the emotional pain you haven't processed from your past. And it can be dormant for a long time.
Okay.
Then something triggers it. Someone says something, or maybe there's a situation, and bam, you react in a way that just doesn't make sense.
Oh, I know exactly what you mean. Like your boss makes a tiny comment and you spiral into self-doubt, even though, logically it's not that big a deal.
Right. That's the pain body taking over. The thing is, it wants to survive. It actually seeks out more pain.
So it creates more conflict.
Yeah, more suffering. But
Yeah.
the good news is you can dissolve it.
Yeah.
And that's where the power of the now is so important.
Okay, so how do we dissolve it? Do I need to book a meditation retreat on a mountaintop?
Well, mountaintops are great. But no, you don't need one. The key is awareness. When you feel the pain body coming up, don't judge it, don't push it away. Just observe it.
So just notice it.
Yeah, feel it in your body. Acknowledge it's there. That takes away its power.
Okay, I see. It's like shining a light on it. It can't survive being exposed. But that brings me to another big idea from the book, time. Like how Tolle says it's an illusion. How does that fit in with all this?
It's all interconnected. That voice in our head, the ego, it creates this false sense of self. How? By clinging to the past and future.
But that's all we know. The past happened, the future is coming.
Right. But the only true reality is this present moment. The past is gone. The future hasn't happened yet. All we have is now.
Okay, I get the concept, but it's hard to escape that psychological time, as he calls it. My mind is so used to thinking that way.
It's definitely a practice, not a one-time fix. First step, become aware of how you're using time. When you catch yourself lost in thoughts about the past or anxious about the future, gently bring yourself back to the present.
Okay, but how?
Engage your senses. What do you see, hear, smell, taste, feel right now?
It's funny. Even something as simple as looking at a tree can ground you in the moment, like really seeing it.
Absolutely. The texture of the bark, the movement of the leaves.
Yeah, the light and shadow.
These are all gateways to presence. And the more you practice, the more access you have to your true being. It's a state of awareness, of inner peace.
This brings us to enlightenment. Does Tolle say we have to completely stop thinking to reach that?
Actually, no. He makes a point of saying that enlightenment isn't about having no thoughts.
Okay, so what is it about?
It's about rising above thought. Knowing you're not your mind, you're the awareness of the mind. You become an observer.
So not emptying the mind, but changing how we relate to it. Interesting. But how do we even access that awareness?
Well, he talks about using what he calls portals, gateways to something called the unmanifested.
The unmanifested. Okay, this is where it gets intriguing. Tell me more.
One powerful portal is the inner body. Shift your attention away from thinking and into the feeling of your body. You tap into a deeper dimension of being.
So it's more than just noticing physical sensations.
Right. It's about becoming aware of the energy that's there. Some traditions call it qi.
Qi. So what exactly is that and this unmanifested idea?
Qi. It's a concept from Eastern traditions. It's that vital life force energy. It flows through everything that's alive.
Okay.
And by becoming aware of it within us, we can access the unmanifested. It's the realm of pure consciousness.
So beyond the physical world.
Exactly. It's like tapping into a source of wisdom and energy that's beyond our everyday thoughts and feelings. And, as you connect more with that inner body, psychological time starts to dissolve.
Okay.
You connect with that timeless part of being.
Wow.
You're not stuck in those past regrets or future worries anymore.
That's powerful stuff. Are there actual practices we can use to connect with our inner body and this Che energy?
For sure. Mindful breathing is a good one. Or body scan meditations.
I've heard of those.
With mindful breathing, you just focus on your breath, how it feels going in and out.
Simple, right.
Yeah. And with a body scan, you bring your awareness to different parts of your body, one at a time,
Okay.
noticing any sensations, but no judging. It helps quiet the mind, and you get in touch with your inner world.
I'm definitely adding those to my toolkit. So we've got the inner body as a portal. Any others?
Yeah, silence.
Silence. Like just being quiet?
Well, it's more than just no external noise.
I see.
It's about finding that internal stillness.
Yeah.
When you step back from all the thoughts.
And just be present.
Exactly. It creates space for that inner peace.
Makes sense. What about the portal of space? That's another one he mentions, right?
Right.
Space? I don't quite get how that works.
It's about becoming aware of the space around you.
Mm.
That space that allows everything to exist.
Mm.
So instead of focusing on the objects in a room, you shift your attention to the space that holds them. And you might start to sense this vastness and emptiness. It points towards the unmanifested, that boundless consciousness.
Okay, so the inner body, silence, space, they all seem kind of different, but they're all connected somehow.
Exactly. Like different roads leading to the same place.
I like that analogy.
And, Tolle doesn't just talk about these portals for individuals. He applies them to relationships, too.
Oh, right. Enlightened relationships.
Yeah.
That's a whole chapter, right? So how does being present change the way we relate to people? Are we all supposed to become monks and live in silent retreat now?
No, not at all. He recognizes relationships are important, but he questions how we usually relate to each other.
Okay.
That ego-driven relating that causes so much suffering. He says lots of relationships are based on need and addiction, not true love.
Addicted to love, you mean like addicted to a person?
Yeah, that's it. We try to find wholeness and fulfillment through someone else instead of within ourselves.
And that never works, right?
Right. It's the ego's trap. It tries to complete itself through another person. But it just leads to attachment, jealousy, all that drama.
Yeah. No thanks. But what does an enlightened relationship even look like? Do people just stop arguing?
Conflicts might still happen, but they're handled differently. Yeah. When both people are present, there's a deeper understanding. You see the other person as separate from you,
Okay.
not an extension of yourself. They have their own unique journey.
It sounds beautiful, but hard.
It is challenging, yeah. But he gives practical advice on how to bring more presence into relationships.
Like what?
Well, first, you got to become aware of your own ego patterns and own your emotions.
So stop blaming your partner for your own unhappiness.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You realize your happiness isn't dependent on someone else.
And when you find that peace within yourself,
Then your relationships can be a source of joy, of growth, not pain and drama.
that makes a lot of sense. But if we're not looking for completion in a partner, what's the point of relationships at all in this whole power of now way of thinking?
It's a good question. He doesn't say to avoid relationships.
Right.
He actually suggests they can be a spiritual practice.
What do you mean?
They can be a mirror showing you your ego patterns and helping you become more present.
So relationships as like a training ground for spiritual growth? Not always fun, I bet.
No, not always. And he's careful to distinguish between romantic love,
Right.
which he calls addictive, and true love.
Which is that state of being we were talking about.
Yes. Romantic love's often about needing the other person to fulfill you in some way. It's based on how they make you feel.
And that's why it's so up and down, right?
Exactly. True love isn't like that. It's unconditional. You don't need anything from the other person. You appreciate them for who they are.
That sounds amazing, but also pretty rare. How do you even cultivate that kind of love?
It starts by finding that presence and wholeness within yourself.
Okay.
When you're not looking for someone else to complete you, you can relate to them from a place of already being complete.
So the more complete you feel on your own, the more you can actually love someone else for who they truly are.
Exactly. And relationships can become an expression of that interconnectedness between all beings.
You know, it's interesting that he talks about enlightenment in the context of Christianity. I wouldn't think those two ideas would go together.
Yeah, and it is interesting. He suggests the teachings of Jesus, if you strip away all the dogma and interpretations,
Okay.
are actually about finding the kingdom of heaven within.
So it's about that divine spark inside each of us.
Right. And he calls that realization, that connection to your true nature, Christ consciousness. It's not about worshiping a person, but about awakening to that same state of presence and unconditional love that Jesus embodied.
That's a cool way of putting it. It's like he's weaving together wisdom from all these different traditions. Buddhism, Christianity, Zen.
He's a master at that. And it just shows you these core truths are universal. Enlightenment, Christ consciousness, being present. It's all about going beyond the ego mind and connecting with something bigger.
Yeah. And that's the whole point of the book, isn't it? Finding that peace and freedom that comes from being present. But what about everyday life? Does this mean we all quit our jobs and meditate all day?
It's not about withdrawing from life. It's about bringing that awareness into everything you do.
Okay.
He emphasizes that the present moment is all we really have. That's where life unfolds.
Right. It's like when you're washing the dishes, you can really focus on the feeling of the warm water,
Yeah.
the bubbles, the smell of the soak, and suddenly it's not a chore anymore. It's like a meditation.
Exactly. He says to approach your work the same way. Find fulfillment in the doing, even in the ordinary stuff.
I can see how that would change everything. Instead of stress and boredom, you're just present
Right.
with each moment.
Right. You see every moment as a chance to connect with that sacredness of life, even the tough ones.
True. Because life's not all sunshine and rainbows. There's pain, there's loss. How does the power of now deal with that?
That's where acceptance comes in. He acknowledges suffering is part of life. But he says there's a difference between pain and suffering.
What do you mean?
Pain is inevitable. It's just part of being human.
Okay.
But suffering, he says, is optional.
Wait, how can suffering be optional? So much feels out of our control.
He says suffering happens when we resist what is. It's our reaction to the pain that creates the suffering. We fight against the present moment. We dwell on the past, worry about the future, and we just make the pain worse.
It's like when you're stuck in traffic and you get all frustrated and angry. The traffic jam is the pain, but your reaction to it, that's the suffering.
Perfect example. He invites us to surrender to the present moment, to accept what is without resistance.
Surrender. That sounds kind of passive, though, like giving up.
It's not about being passive. It's about wisdom.
Okay.
It's realizing that fighting reality just creates more suffering. When you surrender, you're aligning yourself with life's flow.
You know, there's that quote, what you resist persists. The more you push against something, the stronger it gets.
Exactly. And when you surrender to the present moment, even when it's painful, you find this deep peace. It goes beyond the ups and downs of life.
So you're not denying the difficult emotions. You're just meeting them with acceptance.
Yes. He uses this beautiful metaphor to describe it. He says, when you surrender to the deep, now you become like a deep lake.
A deep lake.
Yeah, on the surface there might be waves, ripples, even storms. But down deep, there's this stillness. It's untouched by all the turbulence above.
I love that. So we're not trying to get rid of the waves. We're trying to find that still center within.
Yes. And when you find that, you can handle life's challenges with more grace. You're not at the mercy of your emotions anymore. You're in control.
This is starting to make so much sense. But honestly, if everyone reached this enlightened state, wouldn't the world just stop?
What do you mean?
Well, no more ambition, no progress. Everyone just sits around blissed out doing nothing.
That's a common misconception.
Is it?
Yeah, he actually talks about that in the book.
Oh, good. What does he say?
He says, enlightenment doesn't make you less effective in the world. In fact, it can make you more effective.
Really? But how?
Because when you're present, you're free from the ego's need to be constantly doing. You can access a deeper level of creativity, of intelligence.
So it's not about being lazy or anything.
No, not at all.
It's about tapping into this wisdom and power that's beyond the ego.
You got it. And he believes as more people awaken to their true nature,
Yeah.
it'll create a ripple effect in the world. More peace, more harmony.
I like that idea. But is it realistic? I mean, look at the world today. Wars, poverty, climate change. It's a lot.
It is challenging.
Yeah.
But he reminds us change always starts within. We can't change the world out there until we change ourselves.
So the personal becomes political.
Exactly. The more we embody peace and presence in our own lives, the more we contribute to a more peaceful world.
It's funny, when you first start talking about enlightenment, it all sounds so abstract, you know?
Yeah.
But the more we explore the power of now, the more I see how these ideas apply to real life.
That's the beauty of it. It's not some impossible ideal.
Right.
It's about making small changes, moment by moment.
Small changes leading to big results. I like that. Okay, we've covered a lot today.
We have time, presence, the pain body, relationships. He really packs it all in.
He does. But it all comes back to no, doesn't it? This reminder that the present moment is all we really have. It does. But here's the thing. If everything's an illusion, like Tolle says, what does that even mean? For reality, I mean. Does anything really matter?
Whoa, yeah. Big question.
Yeah.
And a good one.
Yeah.
He doesn't avoid it either.
So what does he say?
He says, knowing the world's an illusion doesn't make it less important. It actually helps us engage with the world better, more consciously, with more compassion.
Okay, but how? How does knowing it's an illusion help us live a better life?
It's a shift in perspective, I guess, from becoming to being.
Becoming to being.
Yeah. When we're stuck in that ego mindset, we're always striving, trying to become someone else or get something better.
We think happiness is out there in the future somewhere.
Right. We chase goals, possessions.
And we end up never satisfied with what we have now.
Exactly. But when we wake up to our true being,
Yeah.
we realize we're already whole and complete. Right here, right now.
We don't need to chase happiness because it's already inside us.
Exactly. You break free from that constant wanting.
Wanting more, better, different. It's exhausting.
It is.
Yeah.
And from that place of inner freedom,
Yeah.
you can still have goals, desires,
Okay.
but you're not attached to the outcome. You can just enjoy the journey.
You know, it makes me think of that line from the book. You are here to enable the divine purpose of the universe to unfold.
Oh, yeah.
That is how important you are.
Powerful, right? And that's the heart of it, really. Waking up to the present moment, to the fullness of being, and letting that awareness change our lives and the world.
That's awesome. But I gotta ask, okay, if reality is an illusion, what happens when we die? What about death?
That's the question, isn't it? He says death, as we usually think of it.
Yeah.
It's also part of the illusion.
What do you mean?
He points to those near-death experiences,
Yeah.
where people talk about this sense of peace, like merging with a larger consciousness,
Right.
entering this realm of light and love.
So it's not an ending.
No. He says it's more like a transition
Ooh.
to a different state of being.
Wow. So we're not just our physical bodies, there's something more.
Exactly. He wants us to consider that possibility, that our true nature
Yeah.
is not limited by time and space. It's eternal, infinite.
That is mind-blowing. And honestly, it brings up even more questions, which is part of what makes this book so great, I think. He doesn't give us all the answers.
He makes us think. He invites us to explore these mysteries for ourselves.
Right. So we've reached the end of our deep dive into the power of now.
It's been quite a journey.
It has.
Yeah.
But it doesn't really end here, does it?
No, not at all.
It's a journey that continues long after you close the book. So to our listener, keep diving, keep exploring, keep questioning, and most importantly, keep coming back to the power of this moment, this now. What if you saw every experience, every interaction as a portal to that unmanifested? How would that change your reality?